Today we're going to talk about animal groups and what we call different animal groups. Here we have some African elephants. But instead of saying a group of elephants, we say a herd of elephants. Our African elephants live here in Kenya, Africa. So this is Africa, and here is Kenya. Here we have ring-tailed lemurs, and instead of saying a group of lemurs, we say a troop of lemurs. The ring-tailed lemurs live here in Madagascar, an island close to Africa. Here we have our penguins, and this is a huddle of penguins. A huddle of penguins. The penguins we just saw are snares-crested penguins, and they live in New Zealand. Way over here. New Zealand. Snares-crested penguins. Here we have cheetahs. This is called a coalition of cheetahs. Did you know cheetahs are the world's fastest mammals? And to avoid fighting with night hunters like lions and leopards, cheetahs hunt during the day. Wide open savannas give cheetahs space to chase. Working in twos or threes, cheetahs quickly separate a weak wildebeest or gazelle from its fleeing herd. The prey is no match for these speedy hunters. A coalition of cheetahs. The cheetah, the group name is a coalition. Their home is the grasslands. Their food is hoofed animals, and they have babies one cub at a time. The cheetahs live in Tanzania, part of Africa. Tanzania. Polar bears. A group of polar bears is called a celebration of polar bears. Did you know a polar bear's tongue is a dark purplish blue? And polar bears can swim for up to a week without stopping. Hungry polar bears lumber along searching for seals by sniffing the frosty Arctic air. Furry feet keep them from slipping on snow and ice. Beneath their thick coats, black skin soaks up the sun's warmth. A polar bear group is called a celebration or a sleuth of polar bears. They live on sea ice, they eat seals, and they have 1 to 3 cubs at a time. Polar bears live in Canada. Here we have a colony of Atlantic puffins. This is called a colony of Atlantic puffins. Puffins gather on seaside cliffs to hatch and raise their chicks, called pufflings. To feed them, parents dive for dinner, returning to their nesting burrows with fish-stuffed beaks. When they need to rest, they float on the waves. Did you know puffins can swim underwater for up to a minute, flapping their wings to push themselves along? Beaks and feet fade to gray in winter, then turn bright orange in the spring. A group of puffins is called a colony of puffins. They live in the sky, the sea, and rocky cliffs. They eat small fish or eels, and they have 1 puffling at a time. Some puffins live in Scotland. Puffins. A group of sea otters is called a raft of sea otters. The ocean is a perfect playground for sea otters, thanks to their cozy coats and paddle-shaped paws. Floating on their backs, they wobble with the waves as they clean their fur, munch lunch, or snuggle with their young. Did you know? To keep the water out, an otter can close its ears and nose when it dives. Thanks to its dense coat, 100,000 hairs per square centimeter, a healthy otter's skin never gets wet. A group of sea otters is called a raft or romp of sea otters. They live in the ocean and they eat clams, mussels, crabs, fish, and octopus. They have one pup at a time. The sea otters live in in the United States. Looks like by Canada. A group of zebras is called a zeal of zebras. Zebras snort when they're happy, greeting each other with ears up and faces reaching forward. But when a big cat, hyena, or crocodile nears, a zebra flattens its ears and pulls its head back. Loud whinnies warn friends. Luckily, one powerful kick can turn away a hungry lion. Did you know every zebra's stripe pattern is different? Zebras keep friends looking neat by using their mouths to pull loose hair from one another's coats. A group of zebras is called a dazzle, a zeal, a herd, or a harem of zebras. They live in the grasslands and they eat grass and they have one foal at a time. Mountain zebras live in Namibia in Africa. A group of butterflies is called a flight of monarch butterflies. Flitting through sunshine, floating through shadows, this king of butterflies flutters from flower to flower. At night, thousands cluster under leaves or branches. They hang upside down, wings folded, awaiting the warmth of the morning sun. Did you know monarch babies called larvae eat nothing but leaves of the milkweed plant? And monarchs are the only butterflies that migrate, spending winter in parts of California and Mexico. A group of monarch butterflies is called a flight or flutter of monarch butterflies. They live in fields and meadows, and they eat flower nectar. They lay eggs up to 400 to 1,000 per female. The monarch butterflies live in Mexico. A group of hyenas is called a cackle of hyenas. Hyenas seem to appear out of nowhere, silently sneaking up on supper. Females rule the group, keeping others in line with growls and grunts, squeals, whoops, and nervous laughter. Did you know the hyena has the strongest jaws of any animal? A hyena eats every part of its prey, including bones, hooves, and teeth. Spotted hyena. A group of hyena is called a cackle or a clan of hyena. They live in the grasslands, savannas, forests, and mountains. They eat hoofed animals, birds, lizards, and snakes, and they have 2 to 4 cubs at a time. Spotted hyena also lives in Kenya, in Africa. A group of monkeys is called a troop of monkeys. Mona monkeys race from branch to branch, jumping and jabbering. These curious cuties are always on the lookout for a sweet bite of fruit, even when their cheek pouches are already stuffed. When danger nears, they freeze, silent and staring. Did you know Monas live in family groups of 40 to 50 monkeys? Everything they need is in trees, food, family, and cozy sleeping crannies, so they rarely come down to the ground. The Mona monkey in a group is called a troop of monkeys. They live in the rainforest, the woodlands, and the swamps. They eat fruit, leaves, nuts, and insects, and they have 1 infant baby at a time. Mona monkeys live in Ghana, in Africa. We have a flock of macaw. Bright splashes of color flash through canopy trees. Noisy squawks and screams let the whole neighborhood know who's coming. Macaws. These flying rainbows live in rainforests, sometimes in groups of hundreds of birds. Did you know flocks often gather on riverbanks and eat clay? Macaws sometimes play catch with their friends, tossing bits of fruit with their beaks. A group of macaw is called a flock or a pandemonium of macaw. They live in the rainforest, eat seeds, nuts, fruit, leaves, and flowers, and they have one chick at a time. The macaws live in Peru, in South America. A group of giraffes is called a tower of giraffes. These graceful grazers wander the African savanna nibbling sky-high acacia leaves. When they rest, they crowd close together to stay safe from lions. Did you know the heart of a giraffe weighs as much as a car tire? And in a windstorm, a giraffe can close its nostrils to keep out the sand and dust. A group of giraffes is called a tower or a clan of giraffes. They live in grasslands, eat leaves, and have one calf at a time. Giraffes live in Africa, in Nambia. Other animal groups. Most animal group names are not scientific or official. They are created by people like you and me who see a group of animals and make up a name that seems to fit. Some groups have been given more than one name. For example, somebody thought Dazzle was a good name for a group of zebras, probably because those bright stripes dazzle our eyes. But they are also called a herd, which made more sense to somebody else. Here are some animal group names. Which ones do you think fit best? We have bats. A cloud or a colony of bats. Our little red flying fox or bats live in Australia. Bears, a sleuth or a sloth of bears. We have beetles, an aggregation or a colony of beetles. The rhinoceros beetle lives in Malaysia. Camels, a caravan or a train of camels. Cats, a pounce, a clouder, or a glaring of cats. Crocodiles, a basque or a float of crocodiles. Flamingos, a stand or a flamboyance of flamingos. Frogs, an army, a colony, or a forgery of frogs. The poison dart frog you just saw lives in Peru.
I love you.
Gorillas, a band of gorillas. Grasshoppers, a cloud of grasshoppers. Hippopotamuses, a bloat of hippopotamuses. Kangaroos, a mob, court, or troop of kangaroos. The red kangaroo you just saw lives in Australia. A loveliness of ladybugs. The ladybug you just saw lives in Romania, in Europe. A leap of leopards. A lounge of lizards. A stair or a parliament of owls. A bamboo or cupboard of pandas. A company or pandemonium of parrots. A colony or huddle of penguins. A prickle of porcupines. A crash of rhinoceroses. A colony of seals. Look at that baby seal, it's so cute. An Arctic fur seal you just saw lives on the South Georgia Island. A nest, bed, pit, den, or knot of snakes. A scurry or a dray of squirrels. A constellation or a galaxy of starfish. A streak or an ambush of tigers. And a pod or a gam of whales. The starfish we just saw, Osher sea stars, live in